I've been thinking that being the start of a new year, there's lots of new families homeschooling. And often at the beginning, when you're setting out, it's often the mom who's decided that she wants to do this and the dad has agreed. But often you have a dad that's a little bit more skeptical. He's a little bit more hesitant about this decision. He maybe wasn't 100% convinced from the start. And so she's kind of feeling like she's still got to win him over and get him on board. And so I thought we could just talk about dads and how they often have a different set of concerns and what can a mom do to help him become more confident about this decision, even when she's feeling quite unsure herself. So yeah, it's quite a big topic. I don't know what we'll get to say in our little 5 to 10 minute chats, but I thought let's just give them some of our thoughts and what we've observed from our own families and from other families that we've spoken to over the years. So can I make you jump in first?
I think that it goes in so nicely with the theme that we've tried to follow this month, which is, how to build your confidence as a homeschool mom. And I think that is actually the key to confidence, is that if your husband is behind you, even if it's a temporary, okay, let's see how this works out for the year. You immediately don't feel like you've got to jump through hoops to impress him. And it gives you the freedom to really embrace homeschooling as a holistic thing, as versus, all right, let's see if we can get our children to get high marks. So that is, I think it is a key principle, is to get the hubbies on board. There are those few instances where the husband is the one that is super keen and the mom is like, oh, I don't think I can do this, and I think that they've actually, if the wives are willing to give it a try, having their husband as their, their champion on the side is great, because there are those days where you just need your hubby to pick up your pieces at the end of it and just remind you, well, this is why we're doing it and we can do this together, or to deal with discipline issues that pop up with the kids, that's great. But so if the focus is going to be on dads who are slightly skeptical, if I think of one of the biggest issues that dads have had over the years, it's team sports for some other reason. It's like a real stronghold in many dads, is that they want, particularly their sons, not so much their daughters, to be involved in team sports. And maybe you want to finish that off. I do have a thought, but I'd like to hear if that's maybe also been the thing that you've seen.
I think for all of us that went to school, because we were away from our homes and our families, our peer group became our family, and it was the place where we found belonging. And I think for guys who played sport themselves, that smaller group of that sports team who they trained with on a regular basis became even more of their support. It's where they found their belonging, their identity, that worthiness. They were competent in their sport. So for them as a person, an individual, it was very important to them. But when we're homeschooling, our family should give us that. And so I think they don't understand that they're not taking their child away from an experience like that. They're keeping them in the place that was actually originally designed to be the place. Give your child the sense of, this is your identity, this is where you belong. Our family is your little tribe, even if it's a family of 3, mom and dad and an only child. Our family and our extended family is our tribe then. And our community is our place where we find belonging. And you can get support from other homeschooling families, and as well as your own family and extended family. What I've often heard some people say, and sometimes it's moms, not only dads, is like, yeah, but how's my child going to learn that they've got to get up on time and get to school on time and get their homework handed in and their assignments done on time, and all that discipline that the school system teaches you. And I was thinking about that, and I want to just kind of turn it around, because a lot of experts have said that the school system was created for an industrial age. So if you want to raise your child to be the kind of person who's employed and they have to clock in at a certain time and clock out at a certain time, and do monotonous tasks and then move on to the next one, or be told when they're allowed to stop for lunch breaks and tea breaks, and they have to be compliant and just work in a system like that, then maybe you're going to feel more comfortable replicating the school system in your home. But if you look at the world, and or if you think about what kind of job would you like your child to have, I don't think you want them doing those sort of mechanical jobs that are more and more being taken over by machines and computers and that anyway. You want them to be able to be self-employed perhaps, or in a creative role where they're flexible, where their hours could be flexible. Well, with COVID now, a lot of people are working remotely, and that's becoming the new norm because of computers and technology. So the world is quite different to the world that we were being programmed to prepare for as kids growing up. And so I think it takes a mind shift, and it takes a lot of thinking over to make that mind shift. But then you can think to yourself, well, then you're doing your child a favor by actually putting them in a situation where they're getting a customized education, where they've got to take responsibility for their own learning, and where you can be flexible and suit their needs. Because there are people in this world who do better getting up early, and there's some who do better working at night. And in the modern workplace, people do that. Some people are self-employed and they freelance and they work when it suits them. So I think a person just needs to think, where do my fears come from, and identify what you think that you're going to be depriving your children of. And if you think it over, you're actually not.
No, definitely not. And, you know, one of the other things that I did is I had a chat with my husband, and I asked him, so, you know, because he was the one that said, no, we need to really consider this, when we heard 20 odd years ago about one family homeschooling in the church. And I asked him this morning on our walk, what does he think now after all these years? And he said the reasons that we started homeschooling as a family are not necessarily the reasons that carried us through all the years. Obviously, sharing our faith with our children was the foundation of that. But other things like, yes, what you just spoken about, a highly flexible, tailor-made home education. But he said he also started out with that idea of excellence in education, you know, this high academic thing. And to be quite honest, at one stage when we started, I thought, yeah, that's what we're going to be churning out. We're going to be churning out accountants and lawyers and doctors and, you know, all of these things. And as the years unfolded and we got a better grasp of this holistic approach to home education, the focus does shift and does change. And he said it was interesting to see how what he thought it would be has turned out to be something different. In some ways, there were, you know, a disconnect between what we thought and what we've got. But in other places, you know, we're wanting to raise adults, and we want to see our children function well in society, function well in their homes, in all of those things that are important, you know, whether you're getting up at 9 o'clock for flexi time or whether you've got to get up at 5 o'clock to be at your work by 8, you know, those things are here and there, but can they work? Can they hold down their job? Are they caring for themselves physically with food and exercise? How do they keep their apartments, you know, if they're living independently of you? Can they adult? Can they buy groceries? Can they balance their check account? You know, those sorts of things. And those are exciting to see that happen in your children's lives, because that's been your approach to homeschooling, is life skills, teamwork, you know, caring for yourself, caring for others, as well as academics, and finding what it is that you want to do with your life. And he said in that way, he finds that homeschooling has over-delivered again and again in each of our children's lives. And that was actually quite encouraging to me as the mom who was in the trenches, you know, for all those years. So that was his input. I wanted to also mention, just as a little caveat, and I know people love stories, is that, years ago, you and I were at a homeschool expo in Cape Town, and one of the most effervescent couples came across to us. You know who I'm talking about, and we were. It was right at the end of the day, and it was like this breath of fresh air. And the mom was like, "Oh, I really don't. I don't know how to embrace this. I don't think this is something that I want to do." But the dad was so enthusiastic, like huge personality, and just got us all excited about homeschooling. And the mom homeschooled diligently for 2 years. And eventually she said, "This is just not me. I'm a businesswoman. I love that space." So she went back to work, and the dad took on homeschooling. So he would homeschool the kids in the morning and then do his work in the afternoon, and she would work in the morning and do the kids' extramurals in the afternoon. And he went on to found, I think, the Homeschooling Dads Facebook group, and still has homeschooled, the 4 kids, 2 grads, and has just completely thrown himself into this lifestyle. So they are out there, the super enthusiastic dads.
Yeah, I think if any mom is battling, the thing is to always just keep talking to the dad about his concerns, and then to find the answers that he need. And often it's difficult when it's couples that have split up or that weren't ever married, or single moms. You've got to sometimes win them over even more, because there's all your other issues between the two of you.
Yeah.
And so maybe the trust and what have you isn't there. But I would say at all costs, just hear him out, show him that you respect his concerns and that it's his children or child that he's worried about, and then find the answers, because there are answers. Other people in that situation have found the answers. And as Wendy said at the start, kind of the a worst case scenario, say to him, well, let's just try it for this year, and we can reevaluate at the end of the year. And then he doesn't feel as though he's making this lifelong this decision that's sort of for the life of your child's school career. It's just a 1 year, and it gives you that first year for him to see how the child is progressing, how happy he is, how you're coping, and how it goes. And there's very few that I've actually never heard of anybody who didn't, by the end of that year, see the fruit of the homeschooling. So it's a good lesson in relationship building too, even just for parents.
It is. And then just on that last note on relationships, the other thing that my hubby and I chatted about this morning was balancing all these roles. As women, we are housekeeper and cook and, personal assistant and, psychologist and, shoulder to cry on. And it's inevitable that somewhere along the line, we're going to drop one of those balls. And there were seasons in my own life where I know that my focus and my attention was so much on my children that there wasn't sufficient on our relationship as husband and wife. And I think that is a very important thing for moms to realize, that there was first you and him, and then the children were added into that. And holding on to that relationship, keeping it in whatever way you can, whether for you a date night is enough, whether it is a walk around the block in the evening to catch up or whatever, just for that connection to remain between the two of you is important for the husbands to know, and to pull him in as much as he's willing and as much as you are able into the actual process of homeschooling, maybe outings on the weekend or something like that as well, so that it's you remain as this core, because we've realized, and I think we've said in some of our other videos that and in fact somebody said it on our live stream the other day, is that our children breathe in the atmosphere of what our marriage is like. They also breathe in the atmosphere of what we are like as women. And if we are out of sync, they're breathing all that in as well, So just that is a little warning to say.
Yeah, don't give them the leftovers. Make some priority.
Definitely. Well, I hope that's given some food for thought, and was a good topic. Thanks for raising that one. Cheers, Shirley.